Have you felt it? That gnawing sensation deep in your chest telling you something massive is unfolding right now. You're not imagining things. What if everything you've been experiencing lately, the chaos, the anxiety, the feeling that reality itself is becoming unstable, isn't random at all? What if it's actually a planetary shift so profound that it's literally splitting Earth into two separate timelines? According to Dolores Cannon and the information she channeled during thousands of hypnosis sessions, we're not heading toward one future. We're heading toward two. And the choice of which one you'll experience is being made right now, in every single thought, emotion, and action you take. Between 2025 and 2030, humanity faces what she called the Great Awakening, a consciousness shift that will separate those operating on higher vibration from those still trapped in fear and density. This isn't science fiction. It's not prophecy in the traditional sense. It's a quantum timeline split already in motion, and you're standing at the fork in the road. The new Earth is forming right now, and the question isn't whether you believe it. The question is, which Earth are you choosing? Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see everything happening around you. The bifurcation of Earth has already begun. Before we go any further, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're covering information that's being suppressed everywhere else, and your support keeps this truth available for those who are searching for it. Don't miss what's coming. You've probably noticed it. Time feels different now, doesn't it? Days blur together, yet somehow everything feels intensely present. You look around and see systems crumbling, people acting out of character, relationships dissolving overnight. The world seems to be speeding up and breaking down simultaneously. Most people chalk it up to politics, economics, or social media. But what if it's none of those things? What if what you're witnessing is actually a vibrational frequency upgrade happening to the entire planet, and everything that can't match that new frequency is simply falling apart? Dolores Cannon spent decades exploring human consciousness through deep hypnosis, accessing what she called the subconscious or higher self of thousands of individuals. Through these sessions, a consistent message emerged. Earth is transitioning, not in some distant future, but right now. She described this as a spiritual awakening on a planetary scale, a consciousness shift so profound that it would fundamentally alter the nature of reality itself. This isn't about religion or New Age fantasy. It's about energy rising to a level that simply cannot sustain the old ways of being anymore. Think about it. Why does everything feel so chaotic right now? Why are people's true colors showing up so clearly? Why do certain places, people, and situations suddenly feel unbearable when they used to be tolerable? It's because the veil is lifting. The illusion that held the old reality together is dissolving, and you're becoming sensitive to vibrations you couldn't perceive before. You're not going crazy. You're becoming conscious. You're experiencing what Dolores Cannon called the graduation shift, a collective awakening journey where humanity gets to choose whether it evolves or repeats the same cycles. The period between 2025 and 2030 isn't arbitrary. It's a window, a portal. According to the information Cannon channeled, these 5 years represent the most intense phase of Earth transition, where the separation between the old paradigm and the new Earth becomes unmistakable. This is the great shift that mystics, our indigenous cultures, and spiritual teachers have been pointing toward for centuries. But here's what most people miss. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you participate in creating. Every single day, with every choice you make, you're voting for which version of Earth you want to experience. Right now, you might be feeling exhausted for no reason. You might be experiencing physical symptoms doctors can't explain. Relationships that once felt stable might be crumbling. Jobs that used to give you purpose now feel meaningless. Your sleep patterns are probably erratic. You're having vivid dreams or experiencing synchronicities that seem too precise to be coincidence. These aren't problems. They're Ascension 2025-2030 symptoms. Your body, mind, and energy field are recalibrating to match a higher vibration, and anything in your life that operates on the old frequency is becoming intolerable. It has to, because you can't take density into a 5D shift. Dolores Cannon explained that this transition is voluntary. Nobody's forcing you to evolve. You can absolutely choose to stay in the fear-based, control-driven reality that's been running the show for thousands of years. But here's the thing. That reality is collapsing. It's losing power. Not because someone's destroying it, but because it's running out of the energy it needs to sustain itself. Fear only works when people believe in it. Control only works when people consent to it. And more people are waking up every single day, realizing they don't have to play that game anymore. This isn't about escaping Earth or waiting for some external savior to fix things. The new Earth isn't a place you go to. It's a frequency you embody. It's a timeline choice you make with your attention, your emotions, your intentions, and the beautiful, terrifying truth is that you're making that choice right now, whether you realize it or not. The planetary shift doesn't care if you understand it. It's happening. The only question is, are you going to resist it or ride it? But there's something coming that changes everything, and most people aren't even aware it's already underway. Here's where it gets wild. We're not all heading to the same future anymore. Let me say that again. Humanity is no longer moving toward one collective destiny. We're splitting. Right now. Dolores Cannon called this the bifurcation of Earth, a divergence so fundamental that two versions of reality will coexist, each operating on completely different frequencies. One Earth remains locked in fear, control, scarcity, and conflict. The other Earth rises into love, freedom, abundance, and conscious manifestation, and you get to choose which one you experience. This sounds impossible, right? How can there be two Earths? But think about it from a quantum timeline perspective. Reality isn't as solid as we've been taught. Quantum physics has already proven that observation affects outcome, that particles exist in multiple states until measured, that time isn't linear. What Dolores Cannon channeled aligns perfectly with quantum mechanics. Multiple timelines exist simultaneously, and consciousness determines which one you experience. You're not choosing between two physical planets. You're choosing between two vibrational frequencies, two states of being that will quite literally shape what you perceive as real. The old Earth, let's call it the 3D reality, operates on density, duality, and separation. It's the world where people fight over resources, where systems control through fear, where your worth is measured by productivity and possessions. It's a reality built on the belief that you are separate from others, separate from nature, separate from source. It's the consciousness of us versus them, where someone has to lose for you to win. And honestly, that frequency is exhausting. It's heavy. It requires constant effort to maintain because it goes against the fundamental nature of the universe, which is unity and expansion. The new Earth, the 5D reality, operates on higher vibration, connection, and creation. It's a world where manifestation happens rapidly because there's no resistance between thought and reality. It's where your soul mission becomes your work, where collaboration replaces competition, where healing happens through energy alignment rather than fighting disease. It's the reality lightworkers and starseeds came here to anchor, a frequency where telepathy emerges naturally, where you can feel the interconnectedness of all life, where love isn't just an emotion, but the organizing principle of existence. Now, here's what makes this so urgent. The timeline split isn't some distant event. It's happening now during this Ascension, 2025-2030 window. Every day, the two realities are moving further apart. People operating on fear and those operating on love are becoming increasingly unable to understand each other. Haven't you noticed? Conversations that used to be merely disagreements now feel like you're speaking completely different languages. Relationships are ending not because of conflict, but because you've literally grown into different frequencies. You can't force someone vibrating at fear to understand someone vibrating at love. They're experiencing different realities. Dolores Cannon said that this separation would happen naturally, without judgment. Nobody gets left behind as punishment. People simply gravitate toward the frequency that matches their consciousness. If you're still deeply invested in the drama, the outrage, the victim mentality, the need to control others, you'll continue experiencing a reality that reflects those vibrations. If you're choosing peace, presence, gratitude, creativity, and compassion. You'll shift into a reality that mirrors those frequencies. It's not about being better than anyone. It's about vibrational alignment. You can't simultaneously be angry and peaceful. You can't hold resentment and experience freedom. The universe doesn't judge your choices, but it absolutely responds to them. The wild part: both groups will think they're right. Both will have evidence supporting their worldview. The fear-based reality will see collapse, scarcity, and control as proof that their survival mentality is justified. The love-based reality will see synchronicity, abundance, and connection as proof that consciousness creates reality. And they'll both be correct for the timeline they're experiencing. This is the reality splitting that mystics have been trying to describe for ages. You're not just choosing your thoughts, you're choosing your world. So what does this mean for you? It means you've got to get ruthlessly honest about what frequency you're feeding. Every complaint is a vote for the old earth. Every moment of gratitude is a vote for the new earth. Every time you engage in fear-based news cycles, you're anchoring that timeline. Every time you choose presence over anxiety, you're shifting dimensions. This isn't metaphorical. This is literal energy shift mechanics. You are the antenna determining what broadcast you receive. And trust me, there's a detail coming that almost nobody talks about, something that changes how you navigate these next 5 years entirely. If you're starting to see how real this is, drop a like on this video and comment below. What's the biggest sign you've noticed that reality is shifting? I read every single comment, and your experiences help others realize they're not alone in this. Let's build this awakening community together. Let's get specific. Why these 5 years? Why is 2025 to 2030 the critical window for this planetary shift? According to Dolores Cannon and the vast body of channeled information she collected, this period represents the most concentrated phase of Earth transition, the years where the separation between timelines becomes so pronounced that neutrality is no longer possible. You're either consciously choosing your frequency, or you're being swept along by the dominant vibration around you. There's no more sitting on the fence. Think of these 5 years as 3 distinct waves, 3 phases of transformation that build upon each other. The first phase, from 2025 to 2026, is what we might call the intensification, the shaking loose of everything that's built on false foundations. The second phase, 2027 to 2028, is the actual bifurcation, where the 2 timelines become experientially different. And the third phase, 2029 to 2030, is the consolidation, where the new Earth frequency solidifies for those who've chosen it. Each phase has its own characteristics, its own challenges, and its own opportunities for conscious evolution. What makes this window so powerful is that it's not just humanity going through this, it's the planet itself. Earth is a living, conscious being, something indigenous cultures have always known but Western civilization conveniently forgot. And just like you're upgrading your frequency, so is she. The vibrational frequency of the planet is rising, and everything existing on her surface has to either match that frequency or experience increasingly intense friction. That friction is what you're seeing play out as chaos, crisis, and breakdown. It's not punishment, it's physics. It's energy rising and incompatible vibrations becoming impossible to maintain. Now, here's what's fascinating. Dolores Cannon explained that this isn't Earth's first consciousness shift. Ancient civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria went through similar transitions, but those didn't end well because the collective consciousness wasn't ready. Too much ego, too much power misused, too much separation. This time, there's been preparation. For decades, even centuries, souls have been incarnating specifically to anchor higher frequencies and assist with this transition. These are the light workers, the star seeds, the sensitive ones who've never quite fit into the system. They're here as frequency holders, and their mere presence on the planet has been preparing the energetic grid for this shift. During these 5 years, you're going to see everything accelerate. Technology will advance in ways that seem almost magical, or terrifying, depending on your perspective. AI, quantum computing, energy breakthroughs, all of this is part of the shift. But technology is neutral. It can be used to control or to liberate, and which purpose it serves depends entirely on the consciousness wielding it. You're also going to see nature respond dramatically. Weather patterns, geological activity, animal behavior, all of it reflecting the planetary shift in frequency. Again, this isn't apocalypse, it's adjustment. It's Earth recalibrating to her new resonance. On a personal level, these 5 years will test you like nothing else. Your spiritual awakening isn't going to be some blissful, peaceful journey where you meditate your way into enlightenment while everything stays comfortable. No. Ascension, 2025-2030 is intense. It's a pressure cooker designed to squeeze out every false belief, every unhealed wound, every attachment to the old paradigm. You'll be forced to confront your shadow, release toxic patterns, and make choices that terrify your ego. But here's the gift. Every single challenge is actually an invitation to choose higher vibration. Every crisis is a portal. Every breakdown is a breakthrough trying to happen. The Great Awakening isn't about acquiring new information. It's about remembering who you actually are beneath all the conditioning. It's about stripping away the false self and standing in your authentic power. And these 5 years are designed to accelerate that process for anyone willing to engage with it consciously. You can resist it and make it harder, or you can surrender to it and let the universe guide you through. Either way, the shift is happening. The only variable is how much you suffer in the process. What Dolores Cannon made clear is that this window is also a grace period. It's your chance to clear karma, to heal lineages, to shift timelines before the separation becomes complete. After 2030, the bifurcation of Earth will be so established that jumping between frequencies becomes exponentially more difficult. Not impossible, but much harder. Right now, you're in the sweet spot where conscious choice still has maximum leverage. You can still course correct quickly. You can still shift your reality dramatically with focused intention. This is the time to do the work. What's coming next will show you exactly what that work looks like, and why the first phase is already shaking your world apart. Welcome to the Shakedown. If you're watching this in 2025 or early 2026, you're living through phase 1 right now, and you can probably feel it. This is the phase where every institution, every system, every structure built on deception, control, and outdated frequency gets exposed and begins to crumble. We're talking governments, corporations, financial systems, healthcare, education, media, all of it undergoing what Dolores Cannon described as an energetic audit. And here's the thing, anything that cannot operate in transparency and integrity simply cannot survive the frequency upgrade that's happening. You've probably noticed that secrets don't stay secret anymore. Lies get exposed faster than ever. People in positions of power are being revealed for who they really are, not who they pretended to be. Scandals are erupting in industries that seemed untouchable. Financial systems that appeared stable are showing cracks. This isn't coincidence, and it's not just the times we live in. This is the vibrational frequency of the planet rising to a level where darkness literally cannot hide anymore. The veil is lifting, and everything operating in shadow is being dragged into the light whether it wants to be or not. The old Earth systems were built on fear, hierarchy, and separation. They functioned by keeping people asleep, distracted, and divided. As long as humans believed they were powerless, the systems maintained control. But the consciousness shift changes everything. As more people wake up and realize their power, these systems lose their energetic fuel. They start malfunctioning, they start revealing their true nature, and ultimately they start collapsing. Not because anyone's attacking them from the outside, but because they're imploding from their own incompatibility with the new frequency. Let's talk economics. The financial system as it exists today is built on debt, scarcity programming, and the illusion that paper and digital numbers have inherent value. It's a house of cards held together by collective belief. As that belief erodes, as more people question why they're enslaved to mortgages, student loans, and credit cards, the system loses stability. You're going to see massive economic turbulence during 2025 and 2026. Markets crashing, currencies destabilizing, banks facing crises. This is terrifying if you're still deeply invested in the old paradigm. But if you understand what's happening, it's liberating. The new Earth operates on abundance consciousness, not scarcity. It operates on value exchange based on energy and creativity, not control and manipulation. Healthcare is another arena where the cracks are becoming canyons. People are realizing that the mainstream medical model treats symptoms while ignoring root causes, that pharmaceutical companies profit from sickness rather than health, that the body has innate healing intelligence when given the right conditions. You're seeing a massive shift toward holistic healing, energy cleansing, plant medicine, and practices that honor the body as a spiritual vessel. The old system will fight back, of course. It always does. But it's fighting a losing battle because people are choosing vibrational alignment over chemical suppression. Education systems are being questioned like never before. Why are we training children to memorize information instead of teaching them how to think critically, how to access their intuition, how to create? Why are we crushing creativity and forcing conformity? The awakening generation, the kids being born now and in recent years, are not going to tolerate the old programming. They're coming in with higher vibration intact, and they're going to demand systems that honor their multidimensional nature. Homeschooling, alternative education models, and consciousness-based learning are exploding for a reason. Media and information control, completely falling apart. People are seeing through propaganda faster than it can be manufactured. Independent voices are reaching millions while legacy media bleeds credibility and viewership. The gatekeepers are losing their gates. The Great Awakening is fundamentally about people reclaiming their ability to discern truth for themselves, and that's the death knell for any system built on controlling narrative. Now here's what you need to understand about this phase. It's supposed to feel chaotic. It's supposed to feel like everything's falling apart, because it is. The old world is dying, and death is never pretty. But what looks like destruction is actually transformation. What looks like collapse is actually clearing space for something new. Dolores Cannon said that this phase would be the most difficult for people still clinging to the old structures, still believing that security comes from external systems. If your identity and safety are tied to a job, a government, a bank account, this phase will terrify you. But if you've already started shifting your consciousness to internal security, to trusting the universe, to knowing yourself as a conscious creator, this phase is exhilarating. You're watching the prison walls come down. You're going to discover something soon that explains why you're feeling this so intensely in your own body and life. It's not just happening out there. It's happening inside you. So while the outer world is shaking apart, what's happening inside you? Everything. Phase 1 isn't just about external systems collapsing. It's about your internal systems getting a complete overhaul. Your beliefs, your emotional patterns, your relationships, your physical body, all of it is being upgraded to match the higher vibration of the new Earth. And let me tell you, this process is not subtle. It's intense, uncomfortable, and often feels like you're falling apart. But you're not falling apart. You're being rebuilt from the inside out. Let's start with the physical symptoms because they're probably the most alarming. You might be experiencing unexplained fatigue that no amount of sleep fixes. Your body aches in strange places. Headaches, especially around the crown and third eye. Heart palpitations that doctors say are nothing to worry about. Digestive issues. Sleep disruptions, either insomnia or sleeping way more than usual, often with incredibly vivid dreams. Ringing in your ears, sensitivity to light, sound, and crowds. If you're experiencing any of this, you're not sick. You're ascending. Your physical vessel is literally adjusting its frequency to hold more light, and that adjustment comes with symptoms. Dolores Cannon explained that our bodies were designed for a denser reality. As the vibrational frequency rises, our cells, our DNA, our nervous systems have to recalibrate. This is what the Ascension 2025-2030 process looks like at the biological level. You're basically downloading new software while the old programs are still running, and that creates glitches. The key is to support your body through this. Drink more water than you think you need. Rest when your body asks for it. Spend time in nature. Eat lighter and cleaner. And for the love of everything, Stop judging yourself for not being as productive as you used to be. You're literally transforming at a cellular level. Give yourself grace. Then there's the emotional purge. Oh, this one's brutal. You're probably feeling emotions more intensely than ever before. Old wounds you thought you'd healed are suddenly back in your face. Grief, rage, shame, fear, it's all coming up to be released. This isn't regression. This is inner healing on a massive scale. The 5D shift requires you to clear out all the dense emotional baggage you've been carrying, sometimes for lifetimes. You can't take unprocessed trauma into higher vibration. It's energetically impossible. So everything has to come up and out. The challenge is that most people don't understand what's happening, so they either suppress it or spiral into it. Both approaches keep you stuck. The key is to feel it without identifying with it. Let the emotions move through you like weather passing through the sky. Cry when you need to cry. Scream into a pillow if that's what it takes. Journal. Move your body. Let the energy discharge. But don't create stories about why you're broken or why healing is taking so long. You're not broken. You're clearing. And the universe is compassionate enough to bring up only what you're ready to release. Relationships are probably imploding around you too, and this might be the most painful part of phase 1. People you've known for years suddenly feel intolerable. Conversations that used to be fine now drain you completely. Family dynamics that you navigated before are now impossible to stomach. Friendships are ending, romantic partnerships are dissolving, and you might feel completely alone. Here's what's happening. As your frequency rises, you become incompatible with people operating on lower vibrations. This isn't judgment, it's physics. You literally can't resonate with fear-based consciousness when you're anchoring love-based consciousness. Dolores Cannon said that one of the hardest parts of the spiritual awakening journey is releasing people you love, who aren't choosing to evolve with you. But here's the truth. You're not responsible for anyone else's awakening journey. You can't drag people into higher vibration. You can hold space. You can offer information, but ultimately, every soul chooses its own path. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them go. Not with bitterness or superiority, but with genuine compassion and the understanding that they're exactly where they need to be for their soul's evolution. Your work, your career, your sense of purpose, probably shifting dramatically too. Jobs that used to feel meaningful now feel soul-crushing. Career paths that made sense suddenly seem pointless. You're questioning everything about how you spend your time and energy. This is because the old paradigm operated on survival and external validation. You worked to pay bills, to impress others, to prove your worth. The new earth operates on soul mission and authentic expression. Work becomes an overflow of your gifts, not a sacrifice of your life force. This transition phase can be terrifying financially, but it's necessary. You can't step into your true purpose while clinging to security that deadens your spirit. Mental and psychological shifts are also massive during this phase. Your mind might feel foggy. You can't focus like you used to. Linear thinking becomes difficult. But here's what's actually happening. You're shifting from left brain dominance to whole brain integration. You're moving from logical, analytical processing to intuitive, multidimensional awareness. Your higher self is coming online, and it doesn't operate through mental gymnastics. It operates through knowing, through feeling, through instantaneous downloads of information. This feels disorienting at first because you're learning a completely new way of navigating reality. All of this, the physical symptoms, the emotional purge, the relationship upheaval, the career crisis, the mental fog, it's all part of the purification required for vibrational alignment with the new earth. You're shedding everything that isn't authentically you. Every false belief, every people-pleasing pattern, every compromise you made to fit in, it's all being burned away. What remains is the real you, the soul you, the version of you that came here to participate in this consciousness shift. And that version is powerful beyond measure. Next, you'll see what happens when this internal clearing reaches a tipping point and the two realities become unmistakably different. Now we enter the most critical phase of the entire timeline split, the years 2027 to 2028, when the bifurcation of Earth becomes undeniable. This is when the two realities stop overlapping and start operating as distinct experiences. People living in the fear-based timeline and people living in the love-based timeline will quite literally be inhabiting different worlds, even while occupying the same physical space. If that sounds impossible, buckle up, because Dolores Cannon described this phenomenon in detail, and we're about to see it play out in real time. During Phase 2, the separation becomes perceptual. What does that mean? It means two people can witness the same event and have completely opposite experiences of it. One person sees crisis, danger, and proof that the world is ending. Another person sees opportunity, synchronicity, and proof that magic is real, and they're both right. They're both experiencing their chosen quantum timeline. This is when you'll truly understand that reality is not objective. It's participatory. Your consciousness is not passively observing reality. It's actively creating it through vibrational frequency. Let's talk about what the fear-based timeline looks like during this phase. For people still operating in 3D consciousness, 2027 and 2028 will feel apocalyptic. Systems will continue collapsing, but instead of seeing it as transformation, they'll interpret it as the end of everything. Conflict will intensify. Wars, social unrest, economic devastation. Control mechanisms will become more overt as those in power desperately try to maintain the old structures. Technology will be weaponized for surveillance and manipulation. Scarcity programming will reach fever pitch. Fear, anger, division. These will be the dominant frequencies, and people resonating with them will experience a reality that confirms their worst beliefs. But here's the crucial part. This isn't happening to punish anyone. It's simply the natural consequence of collective consciousness creating reality. If a group of souls chooses to believe in separation, scarcity, and victimhood, the universe says, okay, here's an experience that matches that vibration. It's not judgment. It's universal law. It's the law of vibration in action. And for those souls, that experience is actually perfect for their evolution. Sometimes consciousness needs to hit rock bottom before it's willing to choose differently. Now the love-based timeline, the new Earth frequency, during 2027 and 2028, completely different experience. For people who've been doing the inner work, who've been choosing love over fear, who've been raising their vibrational frequency, these years will feel like coming home. Yes, they'll still be aware of the chaos in the other timeline, but it won't touch them the same way. It's like watching a storm through a window. You see it, but you're not in it. Instead, what they'll experience is increasing synchronicity, rapid manifestation, deepening connection, and the emergence of true community. This is when the conscious creators start finding each other. The isolation you felt during Phase 1, it dissolves. Suddenly you're meeting people who speak your language, who see reality the way you do, who are also committed to vibrational alignment. These aren't random connections. They're soul family reuniting. These are the light workers and star seeds who came here specifically for this moment, and they're magnetizing toward each other to form the foundation of the new Earth. Communities, intentional living spaces, collaborative projects, new economic systems based on gift and exchange rather than scarcity and debt. All of this starts emerging organically. Dolores Cannon said that during the bifurcation, conflicts simply stop making sense to people in the higher vibration timeline. The need to be right, to dominate, to prove others wrong, it just falls away. Not because you're suppressing it, but because you genuinely can't connect with that frequency anymore. It's like trying to speak a language you've forgotten. The old patterns literally don't compute. Instead, collaboration becomes natural. Empathy becomes your default state. You can feel the interconnectedness of all life, and harming another makes no sense because you understand at a cellular level that harming another is harming yourself. Technology during Phase 2 splits too. In the fear timeline, technology becomes more dystopian, more control, more surveillance, more artificial. In the love timeline, technology becomes aligned with conscious manifestation, free energy breakthroughs, healing modalities that work with energy alignment, communication systems that enhance rather than replace human connection. The same inventions exist in both timelines, but their application is diametrically opposed based on the consciousness wielding them. Nature responds differently to the two timelines as well. In the fear-based reality, natural disasters intensify as the planet shakes off dense energy. In the love-based reality, people living in vibrational alignment with Earth experience her changes as powerful, but not destructive to them. They're guided away from danger zones. They receive intuitive hits about where to be and where not to be. This isn't special protection. It's simply consciousness operating in harmony with the living planet, and that harmony creates safety that doesn't require control. Here's what makes Phase 2 so intense. You'll start seeing people you know diverge so completely that it's like they've become different people. Family members who were always reasonable suddenly seem possessed by fear and rage. Friends who were curious and open suddenly become rigid and defensive. This is the timeline split in action. They're not bad people. They're not wrong. They're simply choosing a different frequency, and that frequency is taking them into a different experiential reality. Your job isn't to save them. Your job is to hold your frequency and be the lighthouse for anyone who's ready to choose differently. What comes next reveals the most important skill you need to navigate this split, and it's not what you think. So how do you actually navigate Phase 2 without getting pulled back into the chaos? This is where Dolores Cannon's teachings become critically practical. The most important skill you can develop during the bifurcation isn't manifestation, isn't psychic ability, isn't even meditation. It's becoming the observer. It's learning to witness reality without attaching to it, without letting it destabilize your frequency. You become what she called the lighthouse keeper, standing steady in your higher vibration while the storm rages around you, offering light to anyone who needs it but never abandoning your post. Here's what most people get wrong about spiritual awakening. They think it means you become immune to challenges or that you float above human experience in some blissed-out state. That's not it at all. Being the observer doesn't mean you stop feeling or caring. It means you stop identifying with the drama. You stop believing that external chaos defines your internal state. You recognize that you're consciousness having an experience, not a victim of circumstances. This shift in perspective is everything. It's the difference between being tossed by the waves and being the ocean itself. During 2027 and 2028, the world around you will be screaming for your attention. News cycles will be designed to trigger fear, outrage, and despair. People in your life will be panicking, demanding that you panic with them. Social media will be an absolute cesspool of division and reactivity. And here's the test. Can you witness all of it without getting energetically hooked? Can you acknowledge that yes, difficult things are happening in the fear timeline, while simultaneously choosing not to feed it with your consciousness? This is vibrational alignment in its most advanced form. The observer state requires radical honesty about where your attention goes, because attention is energy, and energy is creative power. Every time you scroll through fear-based content, every time you engage in outrage, every time you participate in gossip or complaint, you're voting for the old earth with your consciousness. It doesn't matter if you think you're staying informed or being realistic. If it lowers your frequency, it's pulling you toward the timeline you say you don't want. The observer knows this. The observer protects their frequency like it's the most valuable resource in existence because it is. Dolores Cannon emphasized that the ones who successfully transition to the new earth aren't necessarily the most spiritually advanced in traditional terms. They're not the ones who've read the most books or done the most workshops. They're the ones who've mastered frequency management. They've learned to catch themselves when they're spiraling into fear or judgment. They've developed the muscle of redirecting their attention back to love, gratitude, and possibility. It's not about perfection. It's about consistent choice. It's about recognizing 1,000 times a day. That thought doesn't serve the reality I'm creating, and choosing a different one. This is also where your discernment becomes absolutely crucial. During Phase 2, there will be a lot of spiritual bypassing masquerading as enlightenment. People avoiding necessary action by claiming, it's all an illusion. People using high vibration as an excuse to ignore injustice or abandon responsibility. That's not what being the observer means. The observer engages with the world, but from a place of centered power, rather than reactive fear. The observer takes action when guided, but doesn't make decisions from panic. The observer speaks truth when necessary, but doesn't get attached to others accepting it. One of the most powerful practices for maintaining the observer state is learning to drop the story. Every time something happens that triggers you, notice the narrative your mind immediately creates about it. This means I'm not safe. This proves people can't be trusted. This is evidence that the world is terrible. Those are stories. They're interpretations, not facts. The observer sees the event, acknowledges the feeling, and refuses to build an entire reality around it. This is how you stop feeding the fear timeline. You don't deny what's happening. You simply refuse to make it mean more than it means. Another key practice is energy cleansing. During phase 2, you're going to be moving through spaces and interacting with people operating on wildly different frequencies. If you don't actively clear your field, you'll absorb their energy and wonder why you suddenly feel terrible. Daily clearing rituals become non-negotiable, whether it's salt baths, sage, sound healing, breath work, or simply visualizing yourself under a waterfall of light. Find what works for you and do it consistently. Your energy field is your personal atmosphere. Keep it clean. The observer also knows when to speak and when to be silent. There's a time for sharing truth, and there's a time for conserving your energy. You don't owe everyone an explanation of your reality. You don't have to convince anyone that the consciousness shift is real. Your job is to embody it so completely that people feel it in your presence. Some will be drawn to that frequency, others will be repelled by it. Both responses are perfect. The observer doesn't take either personally. What you'll discover during this phase is that the more you anchor in the observer state, the more the external chaos stops affecting you, not because you're numbing out or escaping, but because you've genuinely shifted into a different quantum timeline. You're still aware of what's happening in the fear-based reality, but it's like watching a movie. You have compassion for the characters, but you know you're not in the movie. You're the one holding the space for the story to unfold. This is what it means to be a conscious creator. You're participating in reality with full awareness of your creative power. Coming up, we're going to explore what life actually looks like once the New Earth timeline solidifies, and it's more tangible than you might think. Welcome to Phase 3, the years 2029 and 2030, when the New Earth stops being a concept and becomes your lived reality. This is the consolidation phase, where everything you've been working toward, all the frequency you've been holding, all the inner transformation you've undergone finally crystallizes into tangible experience. Dolores Cannon described this as the moment when the 5D shift becomes undeniable for those who've chosen it. You're no longer straddling two worlds. You're fully anchored in the new frequency, and life operates by completely different rules. Let's talk about what actually changes. First, manifestation becomes nearly instantaneous. In the 3D reality, there's a significant time lag between thought and manifestation. You think something, you take action, you wait. Eventually, maybe it shows up. In the New Earth frequency, that gap collapses dramatically. You hold a clear intention, you align your energy with it, and circumstances arrange themselves almost immediately to bring it into form. This isn't magic, it's physics. At higher vibration, consciousness and matter are much more fluid. Resistance dissolves. What you focus on appears. What you appreciate multiplies. Work transforms completely during Phase 3. The old model of trading time for money, of grinding away at jobs that drain your life force just to survive, that paradigm exists only in the fear timeline. In the New Earth, work becomes an expression of your soul mission. It's what you do even if money didn't exist because it lights you up from the inside. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you operate from that place, abundance flows effortlessly. Not because you're chasing it, Bryce, but because you're in alignment with your true purpose, and the universe supports that alignment with everything you need. Community becomes central to the New Earth experience. The isolation and competition that defined the old world are replaced by collaboration and genuine connection. You're living in or connected to communities of people who share your frequency, who are also committed to conscious manifestation and vibrational alignment. These aren't utopian fantasies. They're practical arrangements where people contribute their unique gifts and everyone benefits. Resources are shared, skills are exchanged, and the concept of scarcity becomes laughable because you're experiencing abundance through cooperation rather than hoarding. Communication evolves during Phase 3 in ways that seem almost supernatural if you're still thinking in 3D terms. Telepathy starts emerging naturally, not as some special psychic power, but as a normal function of consciousness operating at higher frequency. You find yourself knowing what someone needs before they ask. You receive information through feelings and knowing rather than just words. Conversations become more efficient and authentic because you're communicating energetically as much as verbally. Misunderstandings decrease dramatically because you're sensing intention and essence, not just interpreting language. Health and healing look completely different in the new Earth frequency. The medical model of fighting disease gives way to energy alignment and supporting the body's natural intelligence. You understand that physical symptoms are messages from your system, not enemies to be suppressed. Healing happens through addressing root causes, emotional blocks, energetic imbalances, disconnection from nature and source. Food becomes sacred fuel rather than comfort or distraction. Movement becomes joyful expression rather than punishment or obligation. Your body becomes a trusted ally in your awakening journey, not a burden to manage. Technology in Phase 3 serves consciousness rather than controlling it. Free energy systems become available, not because some corporation finally released them, but because inventors in the New Earth timeline are operating from open-source collaboration rather than profit-driven secrecy. Healing technologies that work with frequency and light become mainstream in this timeline. Communication tools enhance genuine connection rather than replacing it. Dolores Cannon said that technology aligned with love rather than fear looks completely different in application, even if the devices themselves seem similar. Your relationship with nature deepens profoundly during this consolidation phase. You're not just appreciating nature from a distance. You're in active communication with it. You feel the intelligence in plants, animals, elements. You recognize Earth as a living, conscious being, and you operate in partnership with her rather than dominion over her. This isn't hippie romanticism. It's the natural state of consciousness when it's not filtered through separation programming. You receive guidance from nature. You feel nourished by simply being in natural spaces. You understand seasonal rhythms and honor them in your life. Time itself feels different in the new Earth frequency. The frantic rushing, the sense of never having enough time, that's a 3D construct. In 5D consciousness, you experience time as fluid and abundant. You accomplish more with less effort because you're flowing with synchronicity rather than forcing against resistance. There's a natural rhythm to your days that feels organic rather than imposed. You're present with what's in front of you, rather than constantly worrying about past or future. This creates a quality of experience that's richer, deeper, more alive. By 2030, if you've been consistently choosing love over fear, if you've been doing the inner work, if you've been holding your frequency through all the chaos, you'll look around and realize you're living in a completely different world than you were 5 years earlier. Not because you moved locations, but because you moved timelines. The new Earth isn't some distant future or another dimension you go to when you die. It's right here, right now, available to anyone whose consciousness can match its frequency. And Phase 3 is when that becomes your permanent reality. Next, you'll discover who the architects of this new Earth actually are, and you might be surprised to find yourself among them. Here's something Dolores Cannon talked about extensively that most people still don't fully grasp. You didn't just randomly end up here during this planetary shift. If you're watching this video, if this information resonates with you, if you've felt like an outsider your entire life, there's a reason. You're likely what she called a volunteer, a soul who specifically chose to incarnate during this time to assist with the Earth transition. You're not here by accident. You're here on assignment. These volunteers, these starseeds and lightworkers, have been incarnating in waves over the past several decades. The first wave came to break ground, to challenge systems, to anchor new frequencies even when it was brutally isolating. The second wave came to bridge, to translate, to help others understand what's happening. The third wave, Many of the younger generations now came with the new Earth frequency already intact, refusing to compromise it. Each wave has a specific role, but the mission is the same. Hold the frequency of higher vibration on a planet that's been operating in density for thousands of years. If you've always felt like you don't belong here, if Earth has felt foreign and harsh, if you've struggled to understand why humans treat each other and the planet with such disregard, that's because you're remembering a different way of being. You're carrying cellular memory of civilizations that operated on love, unity, and conscious creation. You incarnated here knowing it would be difficult, knowing you'd forget who you are for a while, knowing you'd have to wade through the same conditioning as everyone else. But you came anyway because you understood that this consciousness shift needed boots on the ground. It needed embodied frequency holders. Your role as a volunteer isn't to fix the old Earth. It's not to save people who aren't choosing to save themselves. It's not to convince anyone of anything. Your role is to embody the new Earth frequency so completely that you become a living template for what's possible. You demonstrate through your existence that another way is real. You anchor the vibration through your presence, and that creates energetic pathways for others to follow. You're not here to be a martyr or a hero. You're here to be authentically you, which happens to be exactly what the planet needs right now. Dolores Cannon explained that many volunteers experience what she called homesickness, a deep longing for somewhere that isn't Earth, a feeling of wanting to go home even though you don't know where home is. That's not depression or escapism. That's your soul remembering its origin, remembering frequencies and realities where life operates on love rather than fear. The good news? The new Earth you're homesick for is being created right now, and you're one of its architects. You're literally building the home you've been longing for. The work of these conscious creators during Ascension 2025-2030 isn't glamorous or recognized by mainstream society. You're not getting awards or accolades. Most people in the old paradigm won't even understand what you're doing. But you're building systems, creating art, starting businesses, forming communities, raising children, holding space, all from a completely different frequency than the dominant culture. You're planting seeds that won't fully bloom until years later. You're laying foundation that future generations will build upon. This requires immense faith and patience because you rarely see immediate results. One of the hardest parts of being a volunteer is watching people you love choose the fear timeline. You can see so clearly where they're headed. You want to shake them awake. But Dolores Cannon was adamant about this. You cannot force anyone's awakening. Every soul has its own timing, its own path, its own lessons. Some souls aren't here to ascend this time around. They're here to experience the 3D reality to its completion. That doesn't make them less evolved. It makes them on a different trajectory. Your job is to hold space for their choice while honoring your own. Compassion without attachment. Love without codependence. What you'll discover as the new Earth solidifies is that you're not as alone as you thought. The other volunteers are finding each other. You're recognizing your soul family. You're building the networks and communities that will become the infrastructure of the new reality. This is why the isolation of Phase 1 was necessary. It forced you to develop internal strength and clarity. Now you're ready to co-create with others who share your frequency. Together, you're exponentially more powerful than you could ever be alone. Now I'm going to give you the most practical tool for navigating all of this. The protocol that lets you actively choose your timeline every single day. Let's get down to the most practical piece of all this. You've heard about the timeline split. You understand the phases, you know your role. But how do you actually choose your timeline moment by moment? Dolores Cannon and the information she channeled pointed to something I'm calling the timeline choice protocol. This isn't some elaborate ritual. It's a simple but profound practice of conscious decision-making that you apply constantly throughout your day. Every single thought, emotion, and action is a vote. Here's how you cast yours intentionally. First thing every morning, before you even check your phone, before the world gets its hooks in you, you set your frequency. This takes maybe 60 seconds. You close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and you state your intention for the day. I choose the new Earth timeline. I choose love over fear. I align with higher vibration. Feel it in your body. Don't just say the words, embody the frequency. This simple practice creates energetic momentum that carries through your entire day. You're anchoring yourself in the reality you want before external circumstances try to pull you elsewhere. Throughout the day, you become hyper-aware of your attention. Where is your focus going? What are you feeding with your consciousness? When you catch yourself scrolling through outrage or sinking into worry, you pause. You literally stop and ask, is this thought creating the reality I want? If the answer is no, you redirect. You don't judge yourself for the detour. You simply course correct. This is the practice. Not perfection, but conscious redirection over and over again. Every time you choose differently, you strengthen your frequency and solidify your position in the new Earth timeline. Your emotional state is your most accurate feedback mechanism. How you feel tells you which timeline you're tuned into. Fear, anger, resentment, victim mentality, that's the old Earth frequency. Peace, gratitude, curiosity, compassion, that's the new Earth frequency. When you notice you've dropped into density, you have tools to shift. Breathwork, movement, nature, music, whatever brings you back to center. The key is catching it quickly before you spiral and build momentum in the wrong direction. Your emotions aren't the enemy, they're information. Use them. Gratitude becomes your secret weapon in the timeline choice protocol. No matter what's happening externally, you can always find something to appreciate, and when you do, you instantly shift frequency. This isn't toxic positivity, it's quantum mechanics. Gratitude is one of the highest vibrations available to human consciousness. When you're genuinely grateful, you cannot simultaneously be in fear. It's energetically impossible, so you build this muscle. You practice finding things to appreciate even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's when it matters most. You also become ruthless about your media consumption and the conversations you engage in. If it lowers your frequency, you stop consuming it. Period. This doesn't mean you're ignorant or sticking your head in the sand. It means you're prioritizing vibrational alignment over being informed by fear-based narratives. You can be aware of what's happening in the world without marinating in it. You can acknowledge challenges without making them your identity. The observer state we talked about earlier, this is where you practice it in real time. Before sleep, you do the protocol again. You review your day without judgment, noticing where you held your frequency and where you didn't. You don't beat yourself up, you simply acknowledge and choose again. Then you set your intention for your dream state. I align with the new Earth in all dimensions. I release what no longer serves. I integrate the frequencies that support my highest timeline. Sleep is when massive integration and recalibration happen. Use it consciously. The timeline choice protocol also includes regular check-ins with your future self. You visualize yourself in 2030, fully anchored in the new Earth frequency, and you ask, what would you have me know? What would you have me do today? Then you listen. The answers might come as feelings, images, or sudden knowing. Trust them. Your future self is already living the reality you're creating. Let that version of you guide the choices you make now. Here's the final piece, and this is where I need you to participate. Comment below right now with the words, I choose the new Earth, not for me, for you. Because declaring your choice publicly, even in a YouTube comment, is an energetic act. It's you telling the universe, telling your own consciousness, which timeline you're committed to. And when you see others commenting the same thing, you'll realize you're not alone in this. We're a community of conscious creators choosing a new reality together. So go ahead, comment, I choose the new Earth, and let's anchor this frequency collectively. If you made it to the end of this video, you're exactly where you need to be. Subscribe if you haven't already, turn on notifications, and prepare yourself for what's coming. The next 5 years will redefine everything. Choose wisely, choose consciously, choose love. I'll see you in the new Earth.